3 weeks after the convoy ambush, Maria found herself in a completely different environment. The desert mountains had given way to dense forest, where ancient trees created a green canopy that blocked most of the sunlight. Her new mission required different skills, different tactics, and different levels of patience. The intelligence briefing had been thorough but troubling. Enemy forces had established a supply depot somewhere in this forest, using the thick vegetation to hide their operations from aerial surveillance. Ground reconnaissance had identified several possible locations, but confirming the exact site required close observation. Maria lay motionless in a carefully constructed hide, surrounded by fallen branches and natural vegetation. Her ghillie suit made her nearly invisible against the forest floor. She had been watching the same clearing for 18 hours, waiting for signs of enemy activity. Her new spotter, Corporal Williams, was positioned 50 meters to her left. The experienced soldier had transferred from another unit after Johnson was wounded in an IED explosion during their return to base. Williams brought different skills to their partnership, including extensive experience with electronic surveillance equipment. The radio whispered in her earpiece. "Eagle Eye, this is Overwatch. Any movement in your sector?" "Negative, Overwatch. Target area remains quiet." Maria adjusted her position slightly, working feeling back into her cramped muscles. Long-range surveillance required physical endurance that differed from the explosive action of direct combat. Hours of motionless waiting tested mental discipline as much as physical stamina. A branch snapped somewhere behind her position. Maria froze, every sense alert for danger. The forest played tricks on human perception, but her training had taught her to trust her instincts. Something had moved through the vegetation with enough force to break dead wood. She couldn't turn to investigate without revealing her position. Instead, she listened carefully while continuing to observe her assigned sector. The sound might have come from a large animal, but enemy patrols also moved through these woods. William's voice came through her earpiece, barely audible. "Eagle Eye, I have movement to your 6. Single figure, approximately 200 meters out." Maria's blood turned cold. Someone was approaching her hide from behind, and she was completely exposed. Her rifle pointed toward the clearing she was supposed to watch, making it impossible to engage a threat from the rear without significant movement. She keyed her mic twice, acknowledging Williams' report without speaking. Any sound might give away her position to whoever was moving through the forest behind her. Her only options were to remain hidden and hope the approaching figure passed by, or risk exposure by attempting to reposition. The footsteps grew closer, moving with the careful rhythm of someone trying to move quietly through dense vegetation. Maria controlled her breathing, keeping perfectly still while calculating distances and angles. If the approaching person discovered her position, she would have perhaps 2 seconds to react. Through her scope, she continued watching the clearing ahead. A group of men had emerged from the tree line, carrying heavy packs and moving with military precision. The supply depot was definitely in this area, possibly in underground bunkers that explained why aerial reconnaissance had failed to locate it. The footsteps behind her stopped. Maria could feel someone's presence nearby, possibly close enough to touch her if they reached out. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced herself to remain completely motionless. "Drop your weapon." The whispered words came from directly behind her head. A male voice, speaking accented English with barely controlled tension. Maria felt the cold metal of a rifle barrel press against the base of her neck. Every muscle in her body wanted to react, to spin around, and fight for her life. Training and discipline held her motionless as she processed this deadly situation. The man behind her was close enough to kill her instantly, but he had chosen to take her prisoner instead. "I said drop your weapon," the voice repeated, slightly louder. "Do it now, or I will shoot." Maria slowly moved her hands away from her rifle, placing them flat on the ground beside her shoulders. The barrel pressure against her neck increased as the hidden soldier moved closer. "Very good. Now turn around, slowly. No sudden movements." She rolled onto her back, looking up at her captor for the first time. A young man in enemy uniform knelt beside her, his assault rifle trained on her chest. His face showed the strain of operating behind enemy lines, but his eyes held steady determination. "You are the sniper," he said quietly. The one who killed my friends at the convoy. Maria said nothing. Military protocol required providing only name, rank, and serial number if captured. Anything else might compromise ongoing operations or endanger her teammates. The soldier gestured with his rifle barrel. Sit up. Keep your hands where I can see them. As Maria complied, she noticed that Williams had gone silent on the radio. Either he was moving to help her, or something had happened to prevent him from communicating. She couldn't count on rescue and would need to handle this situation alone. You are very skilled, her captor continued. My commander wants to meet the famous American sniper. You have caused us many problems. The clearing ahead remained active with enemy soldiers moving supplies. Maria realized she was witnessing a major resupply operation that her unit needed to report to command. Getting captured now would prevent crucial intelligence from reaching friendly forces. What is your name? The soldier asked. Maria remained silent, studying his equipment and positioning. The man carried standard infantry weapons and gear, suggesting he was part of a patrol rather than a specialized capture team. His nervousness indicated he might be operating alone. You will answer my questions, he insisted, pressing the rifle barrel harder against her chest. We know you are responsible for many deaths. Behind him, Maria caught a glimpse of movement in the trees. Williams was advancing through the forest, using the dense vegetation for concealment. His progress was nearly silent, but she could track his approach by watching for disturbed branches and shifting shadows. The enemy soldier noticed her divided attention and spun around, searching for threats. Williams froze behind a large tree trunk, partially visible, but hopefully unnoticed by the increasingly agitated captor. You are looking for help, the soldier said, turning back to Maria. No one is coming. You are alone. Maria finally spoke, keeping her voice calm and steady. You're making a mistake. My people know where I am. They're already moving to this position. You lie. But uncertainty flickered in the man's eyes. Check your radio, Maria suggested. Call your commander. Ask him if he's detected American forces moving in this area. The bluff was dangerous, but it might create enough doubt to give Williams a chance to act. The enemy soldier's grip on his rifle wavered slightly as he considered her words. Williams chose that moment to strike. Moving with explosive speed, he burst from concealment and tackled the enemy soldier from behind. The two men crashed to the ground, fighting for control of the assault rifle. Maria rolled away from the struggling figures and grabbed her sniper rifle. The weapon was already loaded and ready to fire, but the two fighters were too close together for her to risk a shot. The enemy soldier was stronger than Williams, gradually gaining control of their weapon. Maria reversed her rifle and struck him in the head with the buttstock. The man collapsed, unconscious but still breathing. Nice timing, she whispered to Williams as they quickly secured their prisoner. Couldn't let him take our best shooter, Williams replied, binding the man's hands with plastic restraints. You see what's happening in that clearing? Maria returned to her scope and confirmed the supply operation was still in progress. Enemy soldiers continued moving equipment and supplies, apparently unaware that one of their patrols had been compromised. Command needs to know about this, she said, adjusting her radio to the command frequency. This is Eagle Eye. I have eyes on a major enemy resupply operation. Request immediate air support. The response came quickly. Eagle Eye, air assets are 15 minutes out. Can you mark targets? Maria studied the clearing through her scope, counting personnel and identifying key targets. A large truck had arrived, and soldiers were unloading what appeared to be ammunition crates. Several officers stood near a communications setup, probably coordinating the entire operation. Affirmative, command. I count at least 20 hostiles and multiple vehicles. We'll mark primary targets and provide battle damage assessment. Williams had finished securing their prisoner and moved to his observation position. The unconscious enemy soldier would remain under guard while they completed their mission. Maria settled behind her rifle and began identifying targets. The officers near the communications equipment represented the highest priority, followed by anyone carrying heavy weapons or explosives. Her job was to create maximum confusion when the airstrike arrived. The sound of approaching aircraft reached her ears, distant but growing stronger. F-16 fighters were en route, carrying enough firepower to destroy the entire enemy operation. Maria would guide their attack with precision rifle fire, marking targets and eliminating anyone who tried to escape. She centered her crosshairs on the senior officer, a middle-aged man who seemed to be directing the resupply operation. When the jets arrived, she would take him first, disrupting enemy command and control. 2 minutes out, command reported. Light up your targets, Eagle Eye. Maria's finger found the trigger as she prepared to unleash hell on the unsuspecting enemy forces. The hunter had become the hunted, then turned the tables once again. Her rifle would speak with deadly authority, and another enemy operation would be destroyed. Maria's rifle barked once, and the enemy commander crumpled beside the communications truck. Chaos erupted in the clearing as soldiers scrambled for cover, unsure where the shot had originated. The carefully organized resupply operation dissolved into panic within seconds. The roar of jet engines filled the forest as 2 F-16s screamed overhead. Their first pass was reconnaissance, the pilots identifying targets while Maria continued picking off key personnel below. She dropped a radio operator, then a soldier setting up an anti-aircraft weapon. Lightning 1-1, this is Eagle Eye, she radioed to the lead pilot. Primary targets marked. You are cleared hot. The jets banked sharply and began their attack run. Maria watched through her scope as the first bombs fell, massive explosions that shook the ground beneath her prone position. Trees splintered and vehicles disintegrated under the devastating air assault. Williams monitored their prisoner while coordinating with other ground units moving toward the target area. The enemy soldier had regained consciousness but remained silent, watching the destruction of his comrades' operation with bitter resignation. Secondary explosions, Maria reported as ammunition stored in the clearing began detonating. Target is effectively destroyed. But the mission wasn't finished. Intelligence indicated that enemy forces maintained multiple supply routes through this forest, and destroying one depot might only force them to rely more heavily on the others. Maria's unit had been tasked with gathering information about the entire network. As the smoke cleared, she began photographing the destruction with a high-resolution camera attached to her scope. The images would help intelligence analysts understand enemy supply capabilities and identify patterns that might reveal other depot locations. 3 enemy soldiers emerged from a concealed bunker Maria hadn't noticed earlier. They moved quickly toward the tree line, carrying what appeared to be important documents or communication equipment. She tracked the lead figure through her scope. Her bullet caught him center mass, dropping him instantly. The second man spun around, looking for the shooter, and Maria's follow-up shot sent him sprawling. The third soldier dove for cover behind a burning truck, but Williams had moved to a flanking position and eliminated him with his carbine. That's all of them, Williams reported. Area appears secure. Maria began packing her equipment as friendly forces moved into the clearing to search for intelligence materials. The enemy's resupply network had suffered a significant blow, but the war would continue. Other battles waited. Other missions demanded her unique skills. Their prisoner watched silently as American soldiers secured the destroyed depot. Maria approached him, curious about what he might reveal under proper interrogation. The young soldier's eyes held defiance mixed with resignation. You speak English well, she observed. Where did you learn? The man remained silent, but Maria detected recognition in his expression. He understood more than he was willing to admit, which made him valuable for intelligence purposes. Your friends are dead because they chose to fight us, she continued. You chose differently. That was smart. They were not my friends, the prisoner said quietly. They were my brothers. Maria nodded, understanding the distinction. Military units formed bonds that transcended friendship, creating family relationships among soldiers who depended on each other for survival. She felt similar connections with her own teammates. Your brothers fought bravely, she acknowledged. But this war will end someday. You can survive to see that day. The helicopter extraction arrived on schedule, its rotor wash dispersing the smoke still rising from the destroyed depot. Maria and Williams loaded their prisoner and equipment while other teams continued searching the area for intelligence materials. During the flight back to base, Maria reflected on the day's events. The mission had succeeded beyond expectations, eliminating a major enemy supply depot and capturing a prisoner who might provide valuable information. Her shooting had been accurate and decisive when it mattered most. The prisoner sat quietly across from her, occasionally glancing out the helicopter windows at the forest passing below. Maria wondered what he was thinking, whether he understood that his war was essentially over while hers would continue. Back at base, intelligence officers immediately began debriefing the prisoner while Maria and Williams reported to their commanding officer. The success of the forest operation had already generated new mission assignments, and their unit would deploy again within days. Outstanding work out there, Colonel Harrison told them during their debriefing. The intelligence you gathered has identified 3 more possible depot locations. We'll be moving against them soon. Maria accepted the praise with professional satisfaction. Her skills as a sniper had proven decisive once again, but she knew that success in combat required teamwork and careful planning as much as individual marksmanship. That evening, she sat in her quarters writing the weekly letter to her brother. She described the beautiful forest landscape and the advanced technology of their helicopter, carefully omitting any details about combat operations or casualties. Williams knocked on her door, holding 2 cups of coffee from the mess hall. The young corporal had adapted quickly to their partnership, demonstrating the kind of steady reliability that made for effective military teamwork. "Heard anything about our next assignment?" he asked, settling into the chair across from her small desk. "Colonel mentioned 3 more targets, probably similar to what we hit today. We'll know more tomorrow." They discussed equipment modifications and tactical considerations for future forest operations. The dense vegetation presented unique challenges for long-range shooting, requiring different techniques than desert or urban environments. A month later, Maria found herself on a completely different type of mission. Intelligence had located an enemy sniper who had been targeting American patrols with devastating effectiveness. The enemy marksman had killed 7 soldiers over the past 2 weeks, striking from concealed positions and disappearing before friendly forces could respond. "This one's personal," Colonel Harrison explained during the mission briefing. "Their sniper is specifically targeting our people, and we need him eliminated." Maria studied the terrain maps and patrol reports, looking for patterns in the enemy sniper's behavior. The attacks had occurred across a wide area, but certain geographical features appeared in multiple locations. The enemy shooter favored elevated positions with multiple escape routes. Her unit deployed to a mountainous region where the latest attack had occurred. Unlike her previous missions, this assignment pitted her directly against another trained sniper. The engagement would test her skills against an opponent who understood the same tactics and techniques. She established her position on a ridge overlooking a valley where enemy forces frequently moved supplies and personnel. If the hostile sniper operated in this area, he would eventually reveal his position by taking shots at American targets. For 3 days, Maria waited and watched. Williams coordinated with other units, setting up a network of observers who could triangulate the enemy sniper's location when he next fired. The plan required patience and careful coordination. On the 4th morning, the enemy sniper struck. A single shot echoed across the valley, and Maria saw an American soldier fall near a convoy that had stopped to check for roadside bombs. The hostile shooter had fired from somewhere on the opposite mountainside. "Eagle Eye, this is Spotter 2, came Williams' voice through her radio. Muzzle flash observed at grid reference 4-4-7-2-1-8. Range approximately 800 meters. Maria swung her rifle toward the indicated position, scanning the rocky terrain through her scope. The enemy sniper had chosen his location well, concealed among boulders that provided both cover and camouflage. She studied the area patiently, looking for any sign of movement or unnatural shapes that might reveal the hidden shooter. Minutes passed without result, and she began to worry that he had already changed positions. A glint of reflected light caught her attention, barely visible among the rocks. Maria centered her crosshairs on the spot and waited, controlling her breathing while maintaining steady pressure on the trigger. The enemy sniper moved slightly, adjusting his position to take another shot. Maria saw him clearly for perhaps 2 seconds, long enough to confirm her target and fire. Her bullet struck true, ending the threat that had claimed so many American lives. The enemy marksman's rifle clattered against the rocks as his body went limp behind his concealed position. Target eliminated, Maria reported, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and relief. The deadly game between snipers was finished, and her fellow soldiers would be safer because of her accurate shooting. Williams confirmed the kill through his spotting scope while other units moved to secure the enemy sniper's position. The man had been using a modern rifle with quality optics, suggesting professional training rather than simple guerrilla tactics. During the helicopter flight back to base, Maria thought about the nature of her profession. She had spent months hunting human targets, using her skills to eliminate threats and protect her fellow soldiers. Each successful mission brought her unit closer to completing their deployment and returning home. The war would continue long after her tour ended, fought by other soldiers with other skills. But, for now, in this place and time, her rifle spoke with deadly authority whenever America's enemies showed themselves. She was the hunter in the shadows, the guardian who watched over her brothers and sisters in arms. Her weapon had found its mark once again, and justice had been delivered with precision and finality. In a world where violence determined survival, Maria Santos had proven herself among the most skilled and deadly soldiers her country had ever produced. Maria Santos adjusted her rifle scope for the third time in 10 minutes. The morning sun cast long shadows across the rocky hillside where she lay hidden among the scattered boulders. Below, in the valley, enemy forces moved like ants across the dusty terrain. They had no idea death watched them from above. The 24-year-old sergeant had earned her position as the unit's designated marksman through months of grueling training and battlefield performance. While most soldiers fired hundreds of rounds in combat, Maria made each shot count. Her commanders trusted her precision, and her fellow soldiers trusted her to watch their backs. The radio crackled softly in her earpiece. "Eagle Eye, this is command. Do you have eyes on the target convoy?" Maria pressed the transmit button on her throat mic. "Affirmative, command. 3 vehicles moving southeast along Route 7. I count 12 hostiles, maybe more inside the trucks." "Copy that. Hold your position and wait for the signal." The convoy moved slowly through the narrow mountain pass. Maria had studied the terrain maps for hours, memorizing every ridge and valley. This position gave her the perfect angle to support her team's ambush. The enemy vehicles would be sitting ducks once they reached the kill zone. She thought about her younger brother back home, probably getting ready for school right now. He always asked about her job in his letters, wanting to know if being a soldier was exciting. Maria never told him about moments like this, when her heart pounded so hard she worried the enemy might hear it echoing off the mountains. The lead truck slowed as it approached a damaged section of road. Maria centered her crosshairs on the passenger window, knowing the vehicle commander likely sat there. One clean shot would disable their communications and throw the entire convoy into chaos. Her finger found the trigger. Years of training had taught her to control her breathing, to become one with her weapon. The rifle felt like an extension of her body, perfectly balanced and ready to deliver death at her command. "All units, stand by," came the voice through her earpiece. "Eagle Eye, you are cleared to engage on my mark." Maria's world narrowed to the small circle visible through her scope. The truck bounced over a pothole, and she adjusted her aim slightly. The passenger window came into perfect view. She could see a figure inside, probably studying a map or talking on the radio. "Mark, mark, mark." Her fingers squeezed the trigger with practiced smoothness. The rifle bucked against her shoulder as the bullet left the barrel at over 2,000 feet per second. Through her scope, she watched the passenger window explode in a shower of glass. The convoy erupted into chaos. Soldiers poured from the vehicles like disturbed ants, some taking cover behind the trucks while others ran for the rocky outcroppings along the road. Maria worked the bolt on her rifle, chambering another round. She found her next target quickly. An enemy soldier was setting up what looked like a machine gun behind the second truck. Maria centered her crosshairs on his chest and fired again. The man collapsed, and the machine gun fell and used to the ground. Down in the valley, her teammates opened fire from their concealed positions. Automatic weapons chattered, and explosions from grenades echoed off the canyon walls. The ambush was working perfectly, just as they had planned. Maria continued picking off targets with cold efficiency. An officer trying to rally his men. A radio operator calling for backup. A soldier with a rocket launcher who posed a threat to her hidden teammates. Each shot found its mark, each bullet serving its deadly purpose. The enemy forces quickly realized they were trapped. Some tried to escape by climbing the steep hillsides, while others attempted to push through the ambush in their vehicles. Maria made sure none of them succeeded. She spotted movement near the third truck. 3 soldiers were trying to flank her team's position by working their way up a narrow ravine. Maria shifted her aim and fired 3 quick shots, dropping each man before he could advance more than a few yards. Eagle eye, beautiful shooting. Her spotter's voice came through the radio. Keep up the pressure. The battle raged for 20 minutes. Maria fired methodically, conserving ammunition while maintaining constant pressure on the enemy. Her rifle barrel grew hot from repeated firing, but she never missed a shot that mattered. As the dust settled, an eerie quiet fell over the valley. The convoy was destroyed, smoking wrecks scattered along the road. Bodies lay motionless among the rocks and desert sand. The ambush had been a complete success. All units, sound off, command requested over the radio. One by one, her teammates reported their status. No friendly casualties, minimal ammunition expended, mission accomplished. Maria felt the familiar mixture of relief and exhaustion that followed every engagement. She began packing her equipment, breaking down her rifle, and securing her gear. The team would need to move quickly before enemy reinforcements arrived. Intelligence suggested more hostile forces operated in the area, and staying in one position too long invited trouble. As Maria prepared to leave her sniper's nest, she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Her accurate shooting had saved lives today. Her teammates would return home safely because she had done her job with skill and precision. The radio crackled again. Eagle eye, this is command. Excellent work today. RTB when ready. Copy, command. Moving to extraction point now. Maria slung her rifle across her back and began picking her way down the rocky hillside. The sun had climbed higher, making the desert heat almost unbearable. Sweat dripped from her face as she navigated the treacherous terrain. She reached a small plateau where her spotter waited. Private Johnson had been watching her back throughout the engagement, scanning for threats while she focused on shooting. The young soldier grinned as she approached. Damn fine shooting up there, Sergeant. I counted at least 8 confirmed kills. Just doing my job, Maria replied, checking her watch. We need to reach the extraction point in 30 minutes. They moved together across the broken landscape, following a route they had memorized during their mission planning. The weight of her equipment seemed heavier now, and the adrenaline from combat was beginning to fade. Behind them, smoke continued rising from the destroyed convoy. Maria didn't look back. She had learned early in her military career that dwelling on the results of combat served no useful purpose. The enemy soldiers were dead because they had chosen to be here, fighting against her country's forces. The extraction point lay in a shallow valley 2 kilometers away. Their helicopter would meet them there for the flight back to base. Maria looked forward to a hot meal and a few hours of sleep before their next mission briefing. As they walked, Johnson talked about his plans for leave time. His girlfriend back home was planning their wedding, and he wanted Maria's opinion about whether he should request a transfer to a training unit after their deployment ended. Stay with combat units if you want to advance, Maria advised. Peacetime army is different, but you won't get promoted as quickly. What about you? Ever think about getting out? Maria considered the question as they navigated around a field of boulders. She had joined the army to serve her country and prove that women could excel in any military role. The satisfaction of using her skills to protect her fellow soldiers kept her motivated, even when the work became dangerous or difficult. Maybe someday, she answered finally. Right now, this is where I belong. They reached a ridge overlooking their destination. The landing zone appeared empty, but Maria knew their helicopter was already en route. She could hear the distant sound of rotor blades echoing through the mountain passes. 5 minutes out, Johnson reported, monitoring their radio frequency. Maria found a comfortable position among the rocks and settled down to wait. The mission had been textbook perfect, exactly the kind of operation that made all their training worthwhile. Her accurate shooting had neutralized multiple threats while keeping her teammates safe. She thought about the letter she would write to her brother tonight, carefully editing out any details that might worry their parents. He would want to hear about the helicopter ride and the desert landscape, not about the life and death decisions that defined her daily existence. The helicopter appeared over the eastern ridge, its olive-drab paint scheme blending with the rocky terrain. Maria shouldered her pack and prepared to move. Another mission completed, another day survived in this harsh and unforgiving land. As the aircraft settled onto the makeshift landing zone, kicking up clouds of dust and sand, Maria felt the familiar sense of accomplishment that came with a job well done. Her rifle had spoken with deadly accuracy, and her enemies had paid the price for underestimating her skill and determination.